Hello and welcome to the first episode of my podcast show. My name is V, and today in this podcast, I'm going to talk about my English learning journey. So, unlike other children or kids, I didn't have a very good start with English because there was one particular time I thought English was a very troublesome and very challenging language to learn. And in the past, I had no idea what English was actually is. So my curiosity with English actually sparked when one of the staff of an English center near my school actually was giving out leaflets or advertisements about a new program learning with English native speakers at their English language learning system, like a course to learn English for young children aged 7 to 10. And for some reasons, maybe because of the eye-catching advertisements or because I was so curious and so intrigued by another language called English, I told mom to register this course for me. And this was the very first time I was exposed to English. When I was in second grade, I didn't know anything about conversations. I didn't know a single word in English because our Vietnamese school curriculum start teaching children English when they are in the third grade. Any primary school followed that same standard of teaching. So I had the chance to learn English 1 year earlier than others, and I think that was a huge advantage. Let me just tell you my journey from that particular time to me right now, who can communicate and speak English with a decent pronunciation and according to some teachers at my school and others told me that I have a very wide variety of vocabulary, I think. Anyway, so let's come back to my story. So I still remembered her name even though 7 years had passed. Her name was Teacher Tina, and I swear with you guys that she was the most passionate and the most enthusiastic teacher I've ever had the opportunity to learn from. So she basically taught us a lot of different English words through multiple games and other teaching methods that help us to become more engaged and more immersed in their lecture, unlike the traditional system where teachers just gave a long and boring and dull lecture and students would never pay any attention. So that particular time, I was so grateful that I had the chance to study and gain knowledge from Teacher Tina, and this was the very first time my English journey began. So unfortunately, after a while, I need to stop learning at that English center because my family couldn't afford that. It's expensive to learn from a native speaker than from a Vietnamese one. So yeah, I need to stop my English journey at that, but I was just so feel that was amazing experience for me. And then come back to my primary school. When I was in third grade, I finally had the opportunity to show off my English ability. So I want to warn you that I did not want to brag or want to show off my English abilities here, but I have to admit one thing and acknowledge one fact that I did, to some extent, have some knack for English and some talents for it. Because I still remember that when I was in primary school, I was in third grade, I answered correctly all the English exams, and I always received a 10 score in any particular English exams. However, though very good and amazing and fantastic my level at English grammar was, my English speaking was really, really bad. In fact, as a matter of fact, at that time, I had no idea how to pronounce a single word, even though that I had so much experience speaking with native speakers. But most of the time, I was just not really active. I was just sitting back at the classroom, listening to others discuss opinions. I did not really engage in the classroom. I just really listened to others but did not voice my opinion or did not actually use my pronunciation or my English speaking skill. So my English pronunciation practically didn't sharpen or practice when I was back in primary school. However, my grammar and my reading comprehension or my listening comprehension skills was actually really great, and I often scored really well in that kind of exam. So time went by so fast, and then I attended another English contest when I was in the 5th grade. And this was my very first time I was given the opportunity to attend an English speaking contest. And there was one fact I realized after this contest is that my English pronunciation was too bad. Like, it was so freaking misunderstanding that even my Vietnamese teachers or other native speakers couldn't understand a piece of what I was saying. And that was really getting on my nerve because I was kind of like really confident at my English level, and it can bear the fact that I could not pronounce a single word to a native speaker, and it can even have a daily conversation with them. So at that time, I was determined to train my English speaking practice in the 5th grade. Well, actually, just a single thought. I didn't give it any attention at a particular time until I was in the 6th grade. But let me tell you that story later. Now just come back to the English speaking contest. So finally it was my turn to go to the stage and give the presentation, and I swear with you guys that it was the most humiliating and the most embarrassing moment of my life because I could not rehearse a single word. Even though I learned by heart and memorized the whole speech at home. And I would just stood there completely blankless, and my mind just went completely blank, and I had no idea what I was supposed to do at that time. So the audience just stared at me, and they suddenly burst into laughter hysterically, and I ran out of that stage right away. I could not stand a millisecond of standing there and become a laugh stock to anyone. So at that time, I really kind of like, I could not understand myself anymore. I feel really devastated and upset and disappointed because why my English speaking is so bad, and people around me just pronounced and just spoke English with so much confidence and with so much fluency. And then my mom was a person who introduced me to so many English programs that opened so many of my opportunities to practice and to perfect my English speaking skill in the future. So back to the 6th grade, which I told you when my English speaking journey began. So that time I joined in so many English speaking contests, even though my pronunciation was literally so bad, nobody could ever listen to me. But I decided to not attend any speaking course. I learned all by myself. I went to, because there are so plenty of resources and free materials online, just need to take advantage of that. Somehow you don't realize how conventional and how amazing the internet resources is until you actually get access to them. So I watched tons and tons of YouTube videos, and I listened to a lot of Kids A to Z, which back the time was my favorite website of all time because of all the amazing stories and the way the narrative actually pronounced the words so clearly and so naturally that I normally mimic them, the way that they spoke the word, and so much more. At that time, I realized how English can open so many doors for me in the future, and how English can help me to communicate and help me to advance my career. So I paid 100% attention into learning English in the 7th grade, the summer of the 7th grade. Let me just tell you my typical day of learning English. So my typical day was that I woke up, I immediately went to any kind of like English learning articles, resources, sometimes given the New York Times, even though I could not afford it because we need to pay an extra fee. So I decided to just turn and move on to another resources that are free of charge, such as Life Science, Healthline, CNN, or sometimes because like the New York Times actually give you one free article to read, so I took 100% free of that particular article. So after reading article, I would definitely record any new words or advanced expressions or terms I could not understand into the flashcard, which I thought was actually kind of efficient because it helped me to use the active recall method, which was scientifically proven to be a very efficient study method to use, especially in terms of learning languages. When you write a new word in a front page and you turn it and you write the meaning of it or the example of it behind the page. So I made the goal of make around 10 to 20 flashcards per day, and then after that I had breakfast like normal people and I turned back to learning English. So I would do an eye listening test and then correct all the answers, and then I came back to reading articles or watching any kind of video, YouTube's entertainment at that time. I don't really force myself or put too much pressure on my shoulder to force myself to learn English, to memorize tons and tons of new words, or to cram a lot of textbooks or reference books, or to force myself to read a wealth of academic texts that are too abstract, like wait, why I mispronounce the word so all the time. Kind of like, you think that the more you read, especially there is a myth and the misconception the IELTS reading is that the more you read, the more chances you would achieve a high band score in the IELTS reading test. But this is further from the truth, because if you just keep reading and reading but you do not feel enthusiastic, you do not feel inspiring to keep moving or to record any new words, or you have no energy, absolutely no energy to reread, to check whether or not to check why you made that mistake in that area but you do not make in that area, you will never make any progress. The point of reading is that you actually understand what you're reading and you learn new words, because new words, vocabulary is the foundation, the cornerstone of reading comprehensively. So that's why I realized the importance of learning and recording any new word. It doesn't matter where I conquer or where I approach the new word, I would write down anyway. Whether it in notebook, sometimes I write down a notebook, I record online on any kind of like typing platform such as GoodNotes or Word Doc. Sometimes I also made flashcards digitally online like Quizlet or Anki for language learning purposes. And then the rest of the day, I did nothing but binge watching English YouTube videos. So normally that English YouTube videos based on my interest the whole time. I am practically really into fashion and into productivity tips, into learning languages, so I watched tons and tons of video relating to that topic, and that is not only helped me to sharpen my English listening level, at the same time it also helped me to use English as a communication tool to help me to sharpen my curiosity and to feed my curiosity and to absorb new knowledge at the same time. So there's two benefits of watching and learning English based on your interest. They're just like that. So at the end of 7th grade, I took the IELTS speaking and I received an 8.0. Well, of course, some people might not believe that I received such a high score at a very young age. However, I did manage to do that because, well, one part was because of luck, because that topic were presented in the cue card of the speaking test too was actually something relevant to me about education. So I did succeed in answering this really fluently and using a very wide range and a wealth of vocabulary that relating to that topic. So that's the way I learned English in the 7th grade, and now it's the summer of the 8th grade, and I'm trying to reach my goal because this November I will take the IELTS exam for real in order to apply for some scholarships for the high school journey. So I'm so excited for that. Actually, I don't stress myself to do Cambridge tests every day because I think it's kind of like really boring and too challenging for me to absorb knowledge from all the reading text I don't feel interested in. So instead, I watch tons and tons of videos on YouTube. I read articles relating to my passions, to my goals, and realistic to me. That's the way I learn English too. So what about your journey? If you have any more questions about my journey, just comment down below. And well, don't forget to tell me yours as well. Thank you so much for watching this podcast, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.